So, recently went to Disney World, and it was great. Went on a lot of great rides, but also a few that were pretty bad. So, I decided why not make a list of my 7 best and 7 worst rides that I went on. And just to let you know in advance, most of the rides I went on were great, so expect to see some pretty good rides on the worst list. So, without further ado, let's begin this awesomeness. First of all, with the worst list, they're all pretty good rides up until maybe number 3. Number 7 worst, so this one's great. It's just not as good as the other 7 I had above it. And this ride is Mission Space. So, to be clear, I went on the more intense one. So, don't get me wrong, it's a good ride. It's just, I don't know. The first time I went on this, I thought it was amazing. I was like 7 years old, so I thought that we were actually going into space. Now, obviously, I know that that's not the case. That rhymed. It's a really good ride. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's just, basically, it's just not as good as the other ones. Number 6 worst, I said It's a Small World, which will surprise a lot of people. But, like I said, there are some really good rides on the worst list. Just not as good. I don't know. This was really good. The song's catchy. The dolls are interesting. The style of the ride is cool. I enjoyed like trying to guess what all the different countries were. So, just like Mission Space, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just not as good as the others. So, number 5 worst, I have Star Tours. This was entertaining. Especially one part where the thing you're in, like the pod, I don't know what it's called, I'm just gonna call it a pod. So your pod, it like crashes, and then like, you know, you're wearing these 3D goggles, and it's interesting. The queue line is really cool with like all kinds of different animatronics like C-3PO, R2-D2, and then there's like a giant spaceship, which I think there might have even been like an AT-ST walker, so that was cool. I think that was on the outside of the ride. So, when you get into the ride, like I said, you put on 3D glasses. There's one part where your pod kind of crashes, and just all this glass looks like it's flying at you. It's really cool. I think some people say it's an old ride, which I can believe since Jar Jar Binks shows up in it. He's not that annoying though, so that's good. The main problem I have with this is just that it feels like you're not really strapped in right. Like the seatbelts, like during the ride, you know, I was like sliding around a lot. I don't know if they meant to do that to make it feel more realistic, but whether that was the case or not, it still doesn't change the fact that it's not the best restraint. So, number 4 worst, I said the Jungle Cruise. Once again, this is pretty decent ride. Tour guide's entertaining, and the animatronics are fun. It just felt like there wasn't a whole lot going on. Like, just felt like something was missing. I don't know. Just maybe me, it just felt a bit boring. Like, they could have done more to make it, like, stand out from other rides. Number 3 worst. This is where things start to actually kind of go bad. I said the Swiss Family Treehouse. So, there's nothing, like, horrible about this. Just there's really nothing you're missing if you don't go on it. It involves a lot of walking. It's nothing really that interesting. You just see where they slept and stuff. Just they could have done more to make it more interesting. Number 2 worst, I said the Seas with Nemo and Friends. And this is a fine ride for kids. It's kind of interesting. The queue line is good, especially because they have animatronics like the Mine seagulls out in the front, which, if you know me, I love those guys. I even have a shirt, which you probably maybe have seen in my videos. But back to Nemo ride, just felt like, I don't know, felt like Nemo deserved a better ride. I mean, from a movie that has a 99% Rotten Tomatoes rating, you'd expect it to have like a more interesting ride. Like, my brother and I, we always thought that it would be cool if there was like a water slide based on the East Australian current. That would be really cool. But you just see some characters like Mr. Ray and like his students and some other guys. Like I think you see the turtles at one point. Your ride vehicles are shaped like clams, so that's kind of cool. But I don't know. I don't even know if the ride actually had the actual voice actors in it. I couldn't really tell. Something tells me they weren't in it, but not really sure. So it just felt like Nemo deserved a better ride. Without a doubt, the number one worst thing I did at Disney World was the Island Sunglass Hut. Now, I know I'm aware this doesn't really count as a ride, but I just wanted to diss this thing so bad. So, you know, it's hot Florida weather, which I'm not used to living up in the north. So I need sunglasses. And this is the first sunglasses place we come across. I figure I might be able to find some decent sunglasses to last me through the week with for maybe $20. I go in there and you're not going to believe this. They cost $300 for a pair of sunglasses. These are Oakley's and those other expensive brands, I get it, but why $300? I mean, Beats, it makes sense that they cost a lot. They probably cost a lot to manufacture. Sunglasses can't possibly cost $300 to manufacture. There's no excuse. And, Beats, people are going to know that you have a lot of money if you have a pair like I do. With sunglasses, it doesn't really make a difference what kind you have, except you're being able to say, I own Oakley's. You could argue the same thing for Beats, but I don't know. It seems like they last longer and they're better quality than most others out there. With $300 sunglasses, there's no excuse. And now, moving on to the best list. Number 7 best. I might get some disagreements on this one. I said the Great Movie Ride. So, this is a pretty long ride, but in the queue line, they have, movies playing and stuff. Kind of documentary style thing, explaining some movies, like The Wizard of Oz and stuff. So, then, it looks like that one Chinese theater, I forgot the name. But that's where some early films were shown and stuff, so, it's really interesting. There's one part where there's, all these flames that erupt. It's really cool. You feel the heat. Tour guides, once again, just like Jungle Cruise, pretty entertaining. Although I'd say this one isn't really as entertaining as that one. So, a lot of people disagree with this. They say it's one of the worst ones, but because they say it hasn't been updated in a long time, but I heard they might be making some renovations fairly soon. So, next time I go back to Disney, I can't wait to see what they've done with it. If they've done anything. Number 6 best, I said the Tower of Terror. I was nervous before going on this, because I'd never done a drop ride like that before. Um, Especially considering what happened on that Superman one back in 2007. But I wasn't expecting that to happen. In fact, I was just nervous for this, but it was great. The theming was spot on. Felt like you were in the Hollywood Tower Hotel, and the gift shop at the end sells like some authentic hotel stuff, like those weird hats that they wear, like kind of shaped like cylinder squares. And then they even sell little bells that you would see at the desk where they say ring this if you need help. It's theming is great and it's an enjoyable ride. Number 5 best, I said Spaceship Earth. So this was great. I forget how many. There was a fun fact somewhere, like how many triangles were made up the dome, but it's a huge dome. So basically it's about like our evolution. It's really interesting for me anyways. And then at the end it shows like this is your future. And then you fill out a little survey, but I'm pretty sure no matter what you pick, it ends up the same, so that was a bit disappointing, but other than that, this was great. Number 4 best was Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. So this roller coaster ended up being a bit longer than I expected, which isn't a bad thing because for one thing you get to enjoy the experience more. I felt like I had to wait in line for 55 minutes to get on this. I wouldn't say it was worth that long of a wait, but it was a really fun ride. So, I don't really know how to describe this besides you're in a locomotive traveling around mines and stuff. The theming is great in the queue line as always. But one thing I forgot to mention with these Disney rides is that the queue lines feel like unusually long or like unnecessarily long. Like this isn't a problem with the ride at all. I just feel like the queue lines are super long, which makes sense because it's like the most visited theme park like ever. But I don't know, it annoyed me that the queue line was so long, especially if it's a line that's a really short wait, like the Haunted Mansion. Like, I'll get to that one later. So, number 3 best, I said Pirates of the Caribbean. So, they have done some updates to this recently, like adding Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow, I think. And I think they removed most of the human skeletons, for one thing, which I don't remember if that was in the Disney World or the Disneyland one. Someone let me know. It's a good ride. They play like those pirate songs, like A Pirate's Life for Me, and then that other one that my mind is blanking right now. What is it? I don't know, but like the music is good, and they use those smell devices to make it smell like salty sea air, which I thought was really cool. Then one thing to add, this came out before the movies did. So it came out in like the 60s, like maybe 1966, I think, maybe. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. So, number 2 best, I say the Haunted Mansion. This was one of my most anticipated rides to go back to after not being on it for a long time. And it did not disappoint. So, the parts I remembered the most was all the ghosts, of course, and then the one part at the end where they say, beware of hitchhiking ghosts, and then there's the one that shows up in your car with you. That was really cool. I think they may have changed it a bit since I last remembered it, but it was still great. All the ghosts look super realistic. Like, they either used some really good projectors or some really cool lighting techniques. I don't know. The ghosts felt like you could just go right through them. It felt like they were kind of a bit like, like they were a bit translucent, if you know what I mean. Like, they weren't like, like dark shapes. Like, it was incredible. And to think how many props they must use on that ride, it just blew my mind. Also, since last time I had been there, which was back in 2010, they added some things in the queue line, which they were cool. Like, there's this one thing where the books come out of the bookshelf and then you have to like hit them. It's cool. It kind of helped kill some time. Then there was still like the gravestones that I remembered. And then, yeah. So this was a great ride. I thought nothing could beat it. Until I went on Rock and Roller Coaster. This thing was amazing. Oh my god, after coming off it, I just couldn't believe how fun it was. It was like one of the greatest, it was probably the greatest theme park experience I've ever been on. I'm dead serious. It was just, it blew my mind. So, you launch from 0 to 57 in like 3 seconds, so that was fun. And then, it's a dark ride indoor, which sometimes, those aren't the greatest. Like, the Dark Knight ride, that was alright, but this was amazing. After you go through the dark part, there's all kinds of road signs and UV lights and all kinds of cool stuff. I just remember coming off it saying, and I was just saying, like, that was the best thing ever. And in the queue line, there's, like, a screen showing, like, Aerosmith members, and part where you, there's that big screen above, like, where you're gonna launch, and it says, like, get ready to rock, put your pedal to the metal, all kinds of other cool stuff. Really feels like, this feels perfect. Some of you are probably wondering what I think of Space Mountain. Well, I couldn't go on it because the line was like 2 hours long. So, yeah, I didn't have time. We had a limited amount of time to be there. I know I went on it last time I went there back in 2010. I remember I was nervous, but it ended up being fun. I really wish I would have gotten to go back on it, but I guess until next time.